41.4 million Adderall prescriptions
Wow.
were dispensed in the U.S. in 2021, up more than 10% from 2020, according to IQVIA, a health research firm. What's happening? Getting a diagnosis of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, which can be treated by Adderall and other stimulants, got significantly easier during the pandemic. A wave of telemedicine startups hit TikTok and Instagram with advertisements suggesting that people who look into ADHD medication if they felt distracted. By the way, that would have been me. If this shit was around when I was a kid, I never paid attention in school. And I would have probably thought that I had a disease. Some startups diagnose people with ADHD and prescribe stimulants after 30-minute video calls entirely remotely and much faster than a typical diagnosis from an in-person psychiatrist, the Wall Street Journal reports. Yes, but the trouble with such rapid diagnoses is that it can be difficult to tell whether ADHD is actually the problem. Anxiety can present as ADHD and depression can present as ADHD. Sanford Newmark, a professor at University of California, San Francisco Medical School. Of course. I mean, look, if you give someone stimulants, they're going to feel better. That's why people do coke.
Right.
You know, it makes you feel better.
And what if you start them on it when they're 4 or
Right.
5? And guess what? There are a lot of jobs where ADHD might not harm them. In other words, it might even be an asset.
Oh, it's
right?
a superpower.
I think it can be. I mean, you know, there's an amazing piece in the Wall Street Journal by a guy who argued that in the military, in venture capital, where you're constantly checking, you know, other companies or constantly looking into, being able, someone who's constantly shifting their focus turned out to be an asset, unmedicated.
Well, I think that the idea is that it came from hunter-gatherer tribes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. What is it? See if you could find that ADHD, that the trait emanated from hunter-gatherers. The thing is, like, a lot of ADHD people, if they find a thing that they really enjoy, they get very focused on it.
Right.
Which is what was the thing with me.
Exactly.
I thought that because I couldn't pay attention in school, that I was going to be a loser. A recent review of the evidence by child and adolescent psychiatrist Annie Swanepoel, how do you say that?
I don't know.
And colleagues made the case for the latter. They argue that ADHD traits likely evolved in early human environments that rewarded exploration, novelty seeking, and movement, such as nomadic and migrating communities. Wow. Yeah, it's probably how you stayed alive. And if you were strapped down doing something really fucking boring, that seems completely unnatural, which is part of the problem with children in the first place. We're subjecting them to 8 hours a day of doing something you don't want to do because they say it's for your mental development. And what they're essentially doing is teaching you how to do something that you fucking hate so that you will be able to do that for the rest of your life.
Right. And you know what they could do with those kids? Give them longer recess.
Well, they also could tell them that there's other things you could do for a living if you could find the thing that you actually enjoy and focus on that. And that was the thing that I didn't know until I started doing things outside of school.
Right.
I didn't know that there was things that I could excel at because I actually enjoyed them. And I would focus on those things and get very good at them. And I didn't know that that was a part of me. I had never been told that. Everybody was just like, if you can't do this, you are going to be a loser. If you can't sit and pay attention to this boring ass teacher, teach this boring ass thing that they have no emotional investment in whatsoever.
Right. And it was never true. That's the thing. You were incredibly successful despite what they said. But imagine if they had said to you, actually, there's something wrong with your brain. It's called ADHD. You need a pill so you can be like everybody else. Yeah. Would you have had the same motivation to go keep looking for what you were good at and what you were passionate about?
No, I probably wouldn't have. I probably would have been medicated. If I had the wrong parents at the wrong time in history, I probably would have been medicated.
Right.
And who knows, I probably would have some fucking horrible job where I couldn't wait to get to my pharmacy so I could refill my prescription because I'm running low, and I talked the doctor into ramping up my Adderall.